All right, guys, so in this video, we're checking out the EcoFlow River 600 Pro power station. So these guys, like these little power generators, power banks, power stations, they're kind of popular these days, especially now that there's a lot of these sort of rolling blackouts, especially with a lot of the issues with the weather and stuff, knocking out power stations, you know, on your grid and your power grid and stuff. So a lot of people are looking for solutions to get them through some of the situations where the power grid goes down and they still need to power their devices and other things in the house temporarily. So this one here is, I think, on the medium size from EcoFlow. They do have larger ones with more capacity and more features and capabilities. I do encourage you to check out their website if you do need something with a little more capabilities than this one. This is sort of a mid-range one for a pretty decent price. It does have the ability to also do solar panel charging from a solar panel, and actually I have one down here. I'll show you that a little later. They have two kinds, I think a 120 watt panel or 110 watt panel and a 160 watt panel. This is the 160 watt panel here. I'm not sure if this one will do parallel or not. I think they can, both of them can, I'm not 100% sure, but the parallel cables don't come with the power station. You just get the MC4 connectors for connecting up a single solar panel. So I have the 160 watt and I just have the single one. But if you need to hook them up in parallel, I think you have to buy the parallel cables separately. You can also charge it via the cigarette lighter cable here if you want to charge it inside your car. And then they include this one other cable here for the DC barrel plug connections here if you want to charge things up like that. So just taking a quick look around the power station itself, it's fairly compact. So here's my hand for size. It's not really huge. It's about 16 pounds. There's 18650 lithium ion batteries inside here. So 80 cells total in a 8S10P configuration. So it gives you 720 watt hours total energy and 25 amp hours. So taking a look at the station going around here, this is where your inputs are. And there's a little door here you have to lift up. And so you got your AC power in here, and this has a pretty nice feature where I think a lot of the other power stations out there can't charge as fast. This will go from 0 to 80% in 1 hour, and then 0 to 100% in 1.6 hours. So it's one of the faster charging power stations, and if you need to, charge this up quickly somewhere, like if you're on the road and you only have access to an AC outlet for a short time, this will charge up very quickly, which is pretty nice. And I don't know if a lot of other stations have that capability. I think this is the only one on the market that does that. You have your reset button here in case you have a overcurrent draw. It'll actually shut down. And then this is an XT60 connector here for the DC in from the car, the cigarette lighter adapter, and also from the solar charging cable. So you can plug that in here, and that will charge up the power station via those. I think it's about 5 hours, I think approximately, if you're doing it via 12 volts in your car. And then solar depends. It depends on the output of the sun. You'll see it later in the video. It could take a very short amount of time, like it's relatively short, like say 6 hours if you have two panels, up to maybe 25 to 30 hours if there's no sunlight. So I'll explain that a little later. We have some inlet vents over here for the fan for cooling the inverter. You have a light here in the front. You can turn that on and off. That's like if you need some light, emergency lighting, two different levels there, and then flashing for SOS. And I'll turn that off. You have a reset button here for the IoT, which is a built-in Wi-Fi, and you can actually connect to this via your smartphone to adjust some settings. You don't really need to do that because everything is like basically set up from default. I haven't actually needed to actually change anything, but the smartphone app is available for this one if you want to use that. Get your display here. Basically, it says that 99 hours to empty. Obviously, there's no draw on it, so that's why it's so huge. 47%. And then you have your input wattage and your output wattage here. I'll show you that a little bit later. You got a USB-C output here for up to 100 watts. So this will probably power most modern laptops that have USB charging that are under 100 watts. So a lot of like MacBooks and definitely a lot of PC laptops can charge off of this. You have standard USB-A here. I think these are like 5 volts and 3.5 amps. Then you have fast charging USB here, which is, I think it goes up to 12 volts. And I think this one here is also, the USB-C is also like power delivery and quick charge enabled as well. So it'll work with a lot of devices that are USB-C to charge them very fast. Kind of wish I had more than one of these. Instead of having 2 of these, like having 2 of these would be better. Then you have your DC barrel plug connections here. If you want to charge things via a DC barrel connector, those are available. And then you have your 12 volts out here. This is basically a cigarette lighter port. And so if you have anything that wants to use 12 volts, like in a car, you can use that instead. I'll demonstrate that here shortly. Anyway, so the buttons here turn the power station on and off. That turns it off and goes into sleep mode. It turns the display back on. This one turns the DC on and off. So once it's lit up like that, it's not actually on. It's powered off. And then here on the right side, we have our basically a cooling fan. You have 3 AC ports here. Basically 120 volts output. There's a 600 watt pure sine wave inverter inside here, but it's only up to 600 watts. However, it does have a feature, I forget the name, it's called Extreme or something like that, where it will boost the output from 600 watts to I think up to 1800 watts. At the, what it does is it does a little trick where it actually reduces the voltage. So it may or may not work on all devices. So certain devices that require a certain level of voltage, it might not work. And I'll show you what happens when you run into that situation. But yeah, basically 600 watts max, and it'll boost to 1800 watts with a reduction in voltage. So you have to see if it'll work for your device. To turn this on, press this button like the other ones. Then the cooling fan will kick on. And then press that to power that off. There is a little port down here. So it's an expansion port. And so you can get basically another one of these that has another set of 80 lithium ion batteries. So to double your capacity from 720 watt hours to 1440 watt hours. And I don't believe you can do multiple of them. It's just one extra one. So if you need more capacity for, if you're off grid for a little bit longer, then this will give you a little bit more stuff to charge. All right, so I just want to do a quick demo here of the basically the wattage limit of 600 watts on this one. So this is a hair dryer that will go up to 1800 watts when the heat is on. So you can actually turn the heat on and off on this one. And it'll show you the power draw here on the screen. I'll show you that here. So just plug this in. Go ahead and power this up. And see it's running. And okay, so you can see right here the input and output. And right now it's all zero, everything's powered off. Go ahead and turn the hair dryer on low fan. And you can see it's drawing about 25 watts now. Go to high speed. Now we're up to 75, 76 watts. And it shows you how many hours you have left if you're running it continuously. I'll go back to low speed. So when I go ahead and turn on the heat, you'll see this jump up. So now we're at just about the limit here, about 590 some watts. And the Extreme or the X Boost or whatever hasn't actually kicked in yet. So I turn up the fan. You can hear, see that? It doesn't like that. So when it tries to boost it up, it reduces the voltage on this hair dryer. The hair dryer is like kind of freaking out, and it actually won't go up to the 1800 watts. It actually drops back down because it can't actually run on this voltage. All right, so Albert from the future here. One thing I totally forgot about that I should have mentioned is that this power station can also be used as a UPS or interruptible power supply. So if in the event that you have a power outage, if you have like a computer or something plugged in to the AC, it will basically kick in the backup power, like a regular UPS battery, and power your device. Now, there is a 30 millisecond delay for the switchover. So if your device is not able to handle that switchover and turns off because it's too long, then this won't work for you as a UPS. So just keep that in mind. There is a 30 millisecond switchover delay. Alright, so it's a little bit tedious getting the panel set up, and you use the case as a stand. You can angle it and try and find the best angle for the sun. You can see it's cloudy right now, and it's actually about to rain. So this is probably the worst case scenario in terms of panel output. I think this is the bigger one, the 160 watt panel. And it's charging right now, and a bit hard to see, 16 watts, and it's saying it's to take 25 hours to charge at this rate. Yes, obviously in cloudy conditions, this is probably the worst case scenario. Alright, it's a little less cloudy today. It's got the panel laid flat, and the sun is behind those clouds over there, so not great. The sun was coming out, but I missed it. Now we're up to about 30 watts under these conditions, so not the greatest. All right, so I got the panel out laid flat, sunny now finally, and it is about 4 in the afternoon, so it's not. Alright, get the camera to focus. Yeah, it's getting about 90 watts in full sunlight about 4 in the afternoon, and not angled to the correct angle. Okay, so I'm going to get a bunch of different stuff here going just to show you that everything can work all together on sort of like, not as power hungry of devices. So I've got a battery charger here. This is like for lithium ion batteries. Going to charge up this phone via the USB, regular USB, and I have this one already plugged in. This is for DJI batteries, for drone batteries, on the fast charger, on the fast USB-A right here, and that seems to be working. It's charging up pretty fast. Going to be doing another battery charge on this one here. This is plugged into the cigarette lighter for 12 volts, and I'm going to power that up. So right now we're drawing about 13 watts on the screen. And charge up some bigger batteries here. That should boost up the wattage. Okay, so I'm charging up this battery pack over here. This is drawing the most, I think about 13 watts. So now we're up to about 85 watts. I'm gonna plug in this phone. This is probably not going to draw very much at all. And that's going. Yeah, it's drawing very little power. Now we're up to about 91 watts. And I'm going to charge up some batteries over here. Okay, so I'm charging up two 18650 LiPo or lithium ion batteries on this one. I've got that one going. Now we're up to about 100 watts of power draw. So if you're doing things like this, which is what I actually find this more useful for, because I fly a lot of drones and stuff, and when I'm out in the field, don't have access to AC power. This is great for using it in your car without having to actually plug it into your car and drain your car battery. You can have this in the car and then charge up a whole bunch of stuff, drone batteries and other stuff. And it's well within the 600 watt limit of the power bank here. And you can probably add even more. Now I know that on the 160 watt solar panel, if you have full sunlight, it's going to probably be drawing or inputting about 150, 155 watts, which is actually more than what I'm drawing currently on everything that's being charged right here. So in that scenario where the input wattage is higher than the output wattage, you're actually charging the internal batteries, and it's running completely off of solar. So if you're like for me, for at least for you guys in my audience, the FPV community, if you guys are, having like a race or an event and you don't have any, location, maybe some kind of like out in the wilderness somewhere, you don't have access to power, something like this is going to be really great. You can charge up a ton of drone batteries with this one. And of course you can get the add-on to double your capacity and obviously charge double the stuff with the external add-on. Now, for those of you guys that might consider this in a camping scenario and may want to use it for some high-powered devices like microwaves, for example, or cooktops, like their electric cooktops, some of those may work with the boosting technology, or some of them may not work. It just kind of depends on the device. You'll have to check the specs from the manufacturer on the ones that you are considering using with this one. That I don't think that this particular model is ideal for that because of the 600 watt inverter is really limited to the 600 watt inverter that's in here. So you may want to consider something else if you're going to primarily be using high draw devices, and maybe go for the other models that have the higher wattage inverters, and the 1600, 1800 watt inverters. You're going to need that for especially things like microwaves. Like definitely for sure, even like tiny microwaves like I've seen on Amazon, they're generally above 800 to 1000 watts of power, and I'm sure many of them probably won't work with this one. So if you're thinking about using this for a microwave, it probably isn't going to work. I don't have one to test, so I'm not 100% sure. It's going to have to really depend on the model that you're considering. Now, things like coolers or like small refrigerators that run off of 12 volts, I'm pretty sure those will be fine for a lot of those. Those don't really draw that much power. I think a lot of them are generally more efficient, and they're going to be drawing somewhere around 200 watts. So those will definitely work for something like this. So if you're in a situation like we have a power outage and you happen to have one of those coolers, you can put some of your critical food into one of those coolers, and this will run that off of the batteries on here. You're probably limited in terms of your capacity, maybe 12 hours on some of those. It really depends on the power draw. And of course, if you want more time for a longer power outage, you probably want to get the expansion pack and double your capacity. Okay, so that's going to do it for this video. Let me know if you have any questions. I'll talk to you guys in the next one.